Thank you very much. Thank you for joining. As I see now, we have an attendance of over 40 people, which of course makes us to feel happy. My name is Alexandru Coica. I'm the Eastern Partnership and Central Asia Regions Coordinator within the European Association for Local Democracy. On behalf of the association, thank you very much for joining our panel, and hopefully the next 1.5 hours will be very productive, useful for you, and you'll get a lot of information. Before making more introduction, I just want to say that this is the first online event, the first online panel that we are organizing within our 20th anniversary of ALDA. I'm very glad to present our first speaker, the president of the European Association for Local Democracy. As we said, this panel is within our 20-year celebration, so of course we cannot skip this important step in our history. That's why I will kindly ask Mr. Ottocanto to start this discussion.
Yes. Thank you, Alexandru. Thank you for this brief introduction. I would like to thank to all the speakers today. First of all, Mr. Vassilis Maragos, then Natalya Yerashevich, Madame Yulia Timotin, and Mr. Boris Navasardian, and of course Antonella Valmorbida, our Secretary General, with whom we worked for many years. And I think, Antonella, you are from the beginning, even before beginning of the ALDA, because ALDA started before that ALDA has been created, because ALDA started first as a few local democracy agencies in the Balkans, in the Western Balkans, in the Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Montenegro, Macedonia, because there was a problem of the war in the 90s, and this was beginning. And I remember, and always said to Antonella, the first ever seminar, international seminar that I participated was in Bertonigla. This is a small municipality in my region in Istria. I'm from Croatia, from Istria. And the first international seminar that I attended was there, organized by a local democracy agency, I think 95 or 96 or something like that, and Council of Europe. In that time, each local democracy agencies had something like called ambassador, local democracy agency ambassadors. Now we have delegates, and now from this beginning, now we have 15 local democracy agencies. We work in a different area, and this is exactly what we wanted to cover in this kind of webinars for. So one is EU countries, European issue and the European geographical area, then Eastern Partnership countries, then Western Balkans, so countries that are closer than other countries to the EU in some kind of European integration process that lasts many years, and the Mediterranean area. And so we will organize after that next 3 webinars in this way, where we want to have speakers which from their point of view will present the issue, situation, but also what is very important, to have a possibility to speak with our members and our supporters from all these countries. Because we are now in the difficult situation, you know, we cannot meet like we used to meet, to travel, to organize, to have a direct touch, direct contact, and this is way how we decided in this difficult situation to celebrate our 20th anniversary. So just to continue the story of the beginning, after that, 20 years ago, after a few years that our local democracy agencies already existed, Council of Europe decided to organize this umbrella organization. Small umbrella organization with aim just to coordinate the work of these local democracy agencies. But now we have more than 300 members. We have, as I said, 15 local democracy agencies, plus 3 operational partners from Croatia. So from Croatia, which still existed in Osijek, in Vertenello, and in Sisak. They just changed their name and, let's say, some kind of report relationship with our organization. Then what is also very interesting to stress that now we have more than 40 people working in our organization, our staff working in Brussels, working in Vicenza, working in Strasbourg, working in Eastern Partnership office, then in Mediterranean office, and working in Skopje office. So in 20 years, we really realize many things, many projects, hundreds of projects. Antonella will maybe say something more about this, but we are proud of all of this. We are proud of our staff. We are proud of our relationship with all our members and friends all over Europe, and partners, because somebody just participates, some organization, local democracy organization that work on the local democracy issue, or international or local organization, civil society organization, municipalities, cities, regions. Many of them work with us through many projects. They are not our members, but they are also in some kind of, let's say, our space, our microcosmos or macrocosmos, how we want to say. What is also important to say that we are now preparing the new strategy, and new strategy has to be adopted in the next General Assembly that we had to postponed. It was planned to be organized in my region, in the region of Istria, in May. Then we planned to postpone to September, but now the new idea, and I think this is the final idea, the only issue is if we are going to organize this online, we cannot predict the situation, how will be the situation in the next few months regarding this COVID crisis. But anyway, our plan is to adapt a new strategy. I'm not saying new strategy for 3-4 years, but we want to set up a new strategy for next 20 years. ALDA wants to become bigger and stronger, to create good and flexible and structure that can cover all of our ideas. We fulfilled till now. We succeeded to fulfill all what we wanted to fulfill, and I'm sure that we are enough prepared for the next step. Our next step is to go even beyond of these 4 areas, but this is for the next future. This is another story, but I wanted just to, for our members who are working today with us, who are listening, who participate with us, to know that our idea is also to create something new and to make new steps in our development. So for the beginning, I think I already spoke too much. I would like to thank participants to take and I wanted you take the floor, and I invite all the participants also to ask and to discuss together with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Otokan. As usual happens, seems like my connection it's not the stable one. Before I offer actually floor to Antonella, I just want to mention that the number of people that attend is continually increasing. So now we're already over 50. And just to kindly complete, Mr. Oriano will also have today speaking our colleague from the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum, Natalya Yerashevich, who is with us. Yes, Antonella, please go on.
Thank you, Sandro. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to our first webinar for the 20th anniversary. I warmly welcome our partners and friends, Mr. Vassilis Maragos, Boris Navasardian, and Natalya Yerashevich, with whom we have been working all these years. I'm also very happy to start this presentation and to launch our new logo today from the Eastern Partnership countries, which you all know are very, very dear to me. And I would like to really give our warm welcome to our participants, our member from the Eastern Partnership countries. I thank you also all for fighting against our Zoom fatigue. I know that you are very much solicited, and there is of course some kind of difficulties to be online all the time, but I'm very happy that you could contribute to our reflection, which is today, how are we going to deal to work on local governance and citizens empowerment in Eastern Partnership countries after the COVID crisis. So I'd like to invite our participants and our speakers to debate on that, on this radical change that is ahead of us. And I'm very happy that we could also have Russian translation helping our participants to follow. So please allow me just to present you a few slides which deal with sustainability, resilience, participation in Europe and its neighborhood, as it is the line of our 4 seminars. So as we know, ALDA has been working in this last 20 years for local democracy and community empowerment, which is the core of our work. It was and will be. And our first keywords is innovation linked to community resilience. So we are very happy today to present to you our new logo. So you can see on the left-hand side the past logo and the new brand that you will see around our activities in the future. So another style, let's explain to you a little bit the style. So we had a deep research on this new logo and this new visual presentation, ALDA close to citizens. So with lowercase in our logo rather than capital letters, an asterisk which is helping us to reference, to connection, and of course the line which will bring us around our activities. Of course, we don't forget about our European affiliation. So we will also have a declination around yellow and blue. And we want to thank for this our partners, which is Linus & Co., our partners in communication and visual presentation, our colleagues from Verona. We also will bring our new visual presentation and logo to our new specific 20th years celebration. So we have a dedicated logo for our 2020. Now a few slides about this 20th anniversary report. So as Oriano said, we kicked off ALDA after a project of the Council of Europe. So we are now celebrating 20 years of activities. And my God, yes, I've been involved since the beginning. We have now 350 members, local authorities and CSOs, and more than thousands of partners, which we are very, very happy and proud to participate with. Only in 2019, we have 60 projects implemented, and we'll tell you more. We have 15 local democracy agencies operational in 3 areas, mainly Balkans, Eastern Partnership, and Mediterranean areas, and 5 regional coordination offices, including Chisinau for Eastern Partnership. That's a bit a block of numbers. We did a research for the 10th anniversary report. So the first block refers to 2010, and the second block, more in deep, we studied 2010 up to 2020. So the last block, which is 20 years of activities, shows that we have 425 projects implemented for roughly 41 million euros of management. The nice and impressive data are about how many people we targeted in 20 years. So more than 2 million people have been directly involved in ALDA's activities as direct beneficiaries. with more than 24, almost 25 million people, indirect beneficiaries of our activities. We wanted to show you in these last 10 years our continuous contribution to local democracy and local governance. So those are the lines of the number of projects implemented throughout the years. So you can see a continuous and coherent involvement in the field. Regarding figures that will be also more explained in our publication that will come up in the fall. As you can see, in this last 10 years, we concentrated more on that analysis. We have 323 projects for 31 million euros. And on the right-hand side of the slide, you see how much ALDA is distributing to partners and to LDAs. So out of the sum, we kept 45% for activities directly managed by ALDA, but we distributed to LDAs and to our partners more than the half. So 55% of our resources are managed by our partners. Interesting issues. We also tried to see where we are mostly concentrated, even though, as you can imagine, it's difficult to put barriers to topics, but we tried to do it. So most of our activities are mainly oriented to active citizenship empowerment, and then followed by good local governance and working with local authorities. And we also have a broad spectrum of activities on education, youth, EU values and integration to Europe, and other topics. So some of them are growing, like migration. This is of course a data which is constantly growing in ALDA's activities, mainly working also internally in the EU. Of course, this is nice memories. This is a nice photo of 2008, where we were invited and working in Gdansk with our dear friend Pavel Adamovich, the mayor of Gdansk that was murdered last year. And this was an event dedicated to Eastern Partnership with Belarusian and Ukrainian partners here. So we wanted also pay a tribute to Pavel today. We have some data which I think are not entirely, I'm not entirely happy with this slide, because they talk more about number of projects rather than real sum invested in those countries. So you can see here the number of activities implemented in Eastern Europe, which is the dedicated event today. It shows to be a little bit small, but actually in terms of numbers, so 2% of our work, in terms of figures and sum of money invested is more, but in terms of projects is 24, but I think I will revise a bit this slide. To really give more value also on Eastern Partnership. That's a slide which was also quite an exercise. We tried to, by number of activities in projects, we tried to understand how we are working and what are the methodologies that we use for work. So you see mainly we are working with 20% of our activities on training and capacity building, conferences and dissemination, and moving on with other parts of our work. There is a growing part which is also not so much valorized in this slide, which is the regranting component. We actually have a broad capacity in regranting which is growing. So I will make sure also to valorize more in this presentation this dimension, which is very important for us. But you can see here like a breakdown of the kind of activities that we do. In terms of beneficiaries, in this last 10 years, as it was shortly mentioned before, we have 1 million, almost 2 million of direct beneficiaries, and almost 25 million of indirect beneficiaries from the projects of ALDA, which is quite impressive, but actually this is what we find out from the analysis of our work. We did also some work about the partners identification, and you can see here how they are articulated, and you can see country by countries the partners that we have been working on with. So LAs 628 and CSOs 1,108, which is the component of ALDA, the cooperation between local authorities and civil society. Of course, like all of us online, we are placing our work within the Sustainable Development Goals, which is like the frame within which we are working. So as ALDA, we are mainly targeting those goals that you have here in front of you in the slide: quality education, gender equality, decent work and economic growth, sustainable cities and communities, which is like the top goal within which we are developing our work. Also the Sustainable Goal 17, partnership and broad multilateral, multi-stakeholder approach, peace, justice and strong institution, and of course climate actions, which is growing in our network, working with municipalities and the Covenant of Mayors, for instance, and reduced inequality is extremely important for ALDA. Just a couple of slides to tell you that our activity report 2019 is out, and we are going to present it to you soon online. And the next slide is about the Local Democracy Agency's report, which is also soon out. Here you have a fantastic photo taken in Chefchaouen in Morocco, where we have opened our last Local Democracy Agency. But you can see the broad, very strong network of LDAs, and I know that many of them are online today. So I will stop here this presentation, Alexandru, as an introduction, and give the floor to the debate, because the last slide will be part of the conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Antonella. Thank you for this presentation. I'm pretty sure that our speakers, as we agreed, will keep their presentation in the time limit of 7 to 10 minutes. This being said, from my side, I just wanted, because being ahead of our Eastern Partnership work for around 2.5 years now, indeed, my personal satisfaction is coming from the fact that more and more we as a civil society organization are redistributing our resources, everything we got from the fundraising through subgranting. We have already a tradition of a quite comprehensive subgrant that we're doing in Belarus for years through our Tandem project. Recently, we are awarding some impressive grants in Armenia to boost local tourism and local economy in several villages in the mountains. Never already speaking about subgranting in Moldova, where we had about 130 applications, and it cost us several sleepless nights actually to select about 20 applications out of those 130. So yeah, this is something I like, because it also invests very much in the region, and it invests in local civil societies. Okay, our next speakers, and this is where we actually switch about our discussion of the Eastern Partnership from a broader sense, will be Mr. Maragos, as you can see on the banner that my colleague is trying to share. Mr. Vasilis is the head of unit within DG NEAR, especially focused or specialized on the Eastern Partnership countries. Then, Mr. Vasilis, I already anticipate you'll have the most questions, and just to challenge you a bit, I would like to ask you to give us a bit of insights. What it looks from the perspective of European Commission, how the Eastern Partnership will look like. Over the past several months, there have been a lot of discussions about it, I know, but still, I think there is a lot of expectations from the region. So that's why I think your inputs will be very available actually for us to know how to manage our expectations, to make our plans, and to plan our future activities in the region. Please, Mr. Vasilis.
Thank you, Alexandru. Good morning to everybody. Dear co-panelists, dear Antonella, dear Mr. Otokan, Natalia, Boris, dear participants, it is first of all a great pleasure to be with you today and to discuss about the Eastern Partnership. But before that, I would like to congratulate you for the 20 years, for your energy, for your passion, for your enthusiasm, and for working for our collective resilience, which has been always with us But now with COVID, I think it has become even more of a priority, and we have to work together to achieve that for the benefit of our citizens. And actually, you are very well placed to appreciate that, because you are very close to the citizens. You are very close to the citizens, their daily lives, and this is extremely important. It has been in the center of the Eastern Partnership, and it will continue to be so, even more, I think, in the future. A few words about the past. So in the past 10 years, we have already achieved a lot. What we have achieved in particular is, apart from the specific, the specificities of the various processes which are underway. I mean, I can just briefly mention them: association agreements, visa-free for 3 countries, visa facilitation for the other 3. We just signed the visa facilitation agreement with Belarus and entered into force on the 1st of July in very specific circumstances. Of course, people are not really able to use it right now, but this is because of the pandemic. Then we have done a lot on trade. We have done a lot on support to the SMEs. I will spend a moment later on the local level, local communities, municipalities involvement. But apart from that, just as a basic point, we have created a momentum. We have created a dynamic together about the success of an inclusive policy. Nobody anymore talks about the countries of the Eastern Partnership as ex-Soviet states, as, let's say, 10 years ago. We are talking about the Eastern Partnership of the European Union. We're talking about the Eastern neighborhood. There is a lot of commitment at all levels, first of all, on what we have already achieved and to defend it, but also to achieve more. And I will come back to this in a moment. We witnessed this actually at the leaders' video teleconference, which took place on the 18th of June, a couple of weeks ago, but also we witness it in all the meetings we have with civil society, with the administration, conferences now, virtual conferences like this one. And I think COVID-19 has given us, if you like, the occasion to demonstrate this commitment once more. When it comes to the past achievements, again, I don't want to insist on that. I believe that the participants know the basics. I would like just to recall that back in 2017, we had developed a very specific delivery agenda, the 20 deliverables for 2020. It has helped us to focus and to target the partnership. It was an ambitious agenda, I have to say, but we have delivered in most of the areas that we have, the targets that we have put in front of us. We have helped on specific reforms in every country. We have enhanced trade, as I have mentioned. We have worked a lot on the digital economy, on the extension of the trans-European networks, in particular in the area of transport. We have worked a lot on energy efficiency. And here we have had also very specific projects, very specific achievements when it comes to the Covenant of Mayors, which is one of our achievements in engaging at the local level. And we have worked a lot and we have achieved a lot when it comes to youth engagement, education, vocational education and training, but also creating better people-to-people contacts. Just to give you an example, with Belarus, we have, for instance, a very good program which is called MOST, and we would like to extend it also to the whole region, creating a lot of opportunities for people to travel to the EU for professional links. It is something like the traditional TAIEX, but not for the administration, for everything, for everybody. So I would like really to stress all that. When it comes to the local level, because I know that you are particularly interested in that, I think we have a lot of achievements in the past. I mentioned already the Covenant of Mayors. I would like to mention as well our parallel initiative, the Mayors for Economic Growth as well. All this creating opportunities for plans for development. Both of them actually are based on plans, sustainable energy, the Covenant of Mayors, plans for economic growth for the other initiative, but also many pilot projects which have demonstrated, how we can work together. Apart from this, we have been focusing in actually all the countries in the region, many projects, important, significant segments of the bilateral programs on spending in the regions. So spending in pilot regions in some of the countries, but also supporting decentralization, for instance, in the case of Ukraine, across the country. So it has not been small, but on the other side, I know that the expectations are high in this area. And I would like to thank you also for all your inputs to the structural consultation that we have made last year on the occasion of the 10th anniversary. And this structural consultation has helped to shape a new proposal. This proposal came out actually at the first virtual meeting of the European Commission on the 18th of March, right after the lockdown. It's very ambitious. It has been appreciated quite positively by partners, by member states, by other stakeholders. There are expectations concerning the Eastern Partnership, and we believe that with this proposal, we respond to these expectations in a realistic manner, but still very, very ambitious. So what we proposed actually is to reinforce resilience as the basic overarching theme for the future activities in this region. This is, of course, a general concept, but there have been documents, including from the European Union in the context of external relations, where this is further defined, and it is actually overarching. It covers all the areas. It covers democratic resilience, economic resilience, and also the green resilience and the digital transformation. So what we propose is actually 5 new policy objectives, focusing on the economy, on inclusive economies, and sustainable economies. This will become even more important, I have to say now, with the economic crisis, which is due to the pandemic. Of course, fundamental issues like democracy, good governance, rule of law remain at the heart of the partnership. And then we have the green transition, the digital transformation, and then fair and inclusive societies. I'm sorry that I realized that there was an expectation to make a PowerPoint presentation, but probably I have not really understood that. I'm sorry for that, but we are ready to share all this information to you later in writing if you think that that may be easier for further distribution, also to reach others. One word about our response to COVID, and also how we are going to follow up on these proposals by the Commission in the joint communication. So just to say that in the past few months, we have been working a lot with all the partners, in particular partner countries, with the member states, of course, but also with the civil society and other international organizations, like, for instance, the World Health Organization, in order to provide a credible and quick response to the situation which has emerged after the pandemic, in this region. Unfortunately, the pandemic continues. We don't see this subsiding in the region. And so our assistance becomes even more relevant and more necessary. So what we have done here is that we have allocated around 80 million for immediate response. We are now implementing already part of it. In particular, the program that we are delivering with the World Health Organization, where substantive equipment of close to 30 million is coming and is going to arrive to the various countries. And this includes medical supplies in particular, but also advice on how to deal with the pandemic and how to create good conditions for the future health resilience in these countries. So we are working on that. I'm sure that the participants from Ukraine, Belarus, and Azerbaijan know about this. We have already delivered substantial supplies. And these days, we just received the supplies for the other 3 countries. They are in Liège, and they are traveling now, as we speak, by truck to Armenia, Georgia, and Moldova. Actually, first Moldova, and then Georgia and Armenia. In parallel, we are supporting liquidity of small and medium-sized enterprises by reallocating, accelerating, repurposing some existing facilities, working with the IFIs, the European International Financial Institutions, in particular the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development and the European Investment Bank, but also KfW. And we have allocated additional amounts of more than 100 million to that. And this is now in the process of being delivered to the SMEs in the region. In parallel, we are working, we have been working with governments to support the liquidity of the states through grant delivery. We call them resilience contracts, COVID-19 resilience contracts. This is emergency assistance, if you like, but it is really real solidarity, real cash money, which is going to states to address the emergencies around the pandemic. And finally, last but not least, we have accelerated and increased our support to vulnerable groups, in particular through civil society organizations. We are doing this actually right now. Smaller, there are both smaller programs, but also bigger programs, which are addressing the needs of the vulnerable groups. I can cite later more examples if you wish. So this is about COVID. And of course, COVID is going to define very much what we will be doing in the future when it comes to resilience. After the leaders VTC on the 18th of June, there is a broad agreement to work together with the partner countries and the member states, but also all the other stakeholders to develop the next generation of deliverables. We are going to work on this in the course of this autumn, in the panels of the Eastern Partnership, but also on all the other occasions. And I'm looking forward to discussing further with you, other associations of local authorities, other representatives on how we can define some very specific deliverables when it comes to local authorities, which are whose role is emphasized in the communication, probably without giving all the details, everything that we would like to do together with you. But this is something which we can develop in the context of the 20 deliverables. There is big support about this. European Parliament discussed the other day their own, actually issued recently also their own resolution where they emphasize the role of the local authorities. And of course, we have got this, thank you once more for the inputs at the structural consultation last year. To conclude, I believe that we have a very good basis for moving forward. There is strong ownership, there is commitment. We have, of course, to see how the final negotiation is going to go on the next multi-annual financial framework. The Commission made very concrete proposals, but we believe that we are going to have enough financial firepower. Already, we believe we are going to have more funds when it comes to guarantees for private investments. And we have to make sure that also the local authorities and the municipalities can be part of this joint effort to increase investments. Recently, my team has prepared a municipal financing study. We are looking forward to discussing with you how we can make our financing for municipal projects. We have done a lot in the past, in particular in the environmental area as well. I didn't mention it earlier through the E5P, the Eastern Europe Energy Efficiency and Environmental Partnership, and which was also renewed late last year. This is managed by the EBRD. The European Union is the biggest donor, and actually I'm chairing the Assembly of Contributors. So we are looking forward to further expanding the capacities, but also the capacities of the municipalities, but also their capacity to take loans, to interact financially, so that we can have good results together with you. So I leave it here, and of course, I'm once more very honored to be here with you today to celebrate the 20th anniversary of ALDA, and looking forward to working with you for the next steps.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vasilis. As I anticipated, it was a quite interesting and substantive presentation, which with a lot of inputs that I noted myself. Maybe just to use my abuse a bit on my role as a moderator, I would like to advocate for the some of the things you said. We are very glad to hear that for the next cycle in the European Commission relationship with this partnership country, more and more focus will be on the civil society and local authorities. Speaking from civil society perspective, I can say that in majority of the EaP countries, the government sometimes fail to deliver specific expectations or outputs that were agreed by the Commission. Either it's association agreement or other type of agreements. So basically local authorities and civil society are closer placed to the citizens, know better the local realities, and I think they'll be much better partners for the future. So we can just underline, highlight, and appreciate this effort from the European Commission. And also it was a fantastic news about the support, the urgent support that we're getting in this COVID situation. And please don't forget that a part of state authorities, I think there are a lot of civil society which working in the field of emergency response, aid, and so on. They can be very efficient and fast in distributing all this equipment. And this being said, probably I'll pass the floor to Natalia. Natalia, the director of the Secretariat of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum. Just less than a month ago, I participated in the working group 1 of the Civil Society Forum, and I should say it was my first, and probably also for the platform, was the first fully online event. I never thought that something that you usually do in 2-3 working days, you can do in a week of online meetings, but it worked. So I assume Natalia is already very familiar with this online meetings and works and panels. That's why I will pass the floor to her without too much introduction. Natalia, please.
Thank you very much, Alexandru. Thank you to ALDA for the organization of this meeting and for the invitation. Very warm congratulations on the 20th anniversary. It's an impressive length, and it's an impressive organization that you have created. We have cooperated during these years, and Antonella was also at the beginning of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum. So we have been cooperating a lot, and we have different memberships, but a lot of members who are the same actually. So, and we're working on the same region. So there are a lot of, in terms of cooperation going on, and I'm happy that we continue this cooperation. A little bit about the forum, maybe for those who don't know, we participate in the multilateral architecture of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society, Eastern Partnership policy. So we take part in all official meetings, in all discussions, and we try to shape Eastern Partnership policy by participating in consultations that EU institutions are conducting. We also organize a lot of our own internal consultation when we see that at a particular point of time, recommendations from civil society would be necessary. Also participate in bilateral dimension of Eastern Partnership. Kind of this rounds up our overall overview of the Eastern Partnership and our participation in it. We're very happy to participate in the consultations that will be conducted on the future deliverables post-2020, and we encourage everybody to do the same, to be active, because those deliverables really guide our joint activities in the next 3 years, and this is how we will be assessing our successes or failures at the end of 3 years. Of the next cycle of the Eastern Partnership policy. So looking forward to the launch of these consultations and working with our members and other organizations on having the joint input to this new deliverables post-2020. I fully agree with the assessment of Vasilis in terms of the positive delivery of the Eastern Partnership policies in the last 3 years. So I will more focus on the future and maybe on some aspects where we didn't manage to deliver that well. And I will start by saying that Eastern Partnership policy, of course, has been devised as a policy based on values. And unfortunately, when we speak about Eastern Partnership region, and when I think about it, it is not coming across my mind as anything, as a geographic space where human dignity, democracy, rule of law, and human rights are respected. So it is clear that building democratic and rules-based societies is a long and maybe in fact never-ending process. However, if we want the policy to start being relevant to the people in the next years, we need to see more progress in this regard. And we all need to make more efforts jointly, but of course the EU has the most leverage here, and it can be more effective in pushing the Eastern Partnership governments to achieve those objectives via continued attention, dialogue, which is already happening, and maybe more strategic and consistent conditionality. And a part of economic pillar of post-2020 Eastern Partnership, for example, can be used to leverage progress in the domain on freedoms, human rights, and democracy. A practice of transferring EU funding from non-compliant governments to civil society and other reform-oriented actors like local governments should be established. And I fully concur here with Alexandru's mentioning of this after Vasilis' intervention. So this is extremely important to being able to rechannel the money to other actors, reform-oriented actors, when the governments are not delivering and they are not compliant with the obligations that they took on themselves. Also, the societies that are already suffering from undemocratic regimes should not be cut from EU financial support. When I say this, I think of the current situation in my own country, Belarus, where civil society and local officials have proven to be more effective in addressing the epidemic, and where now the unlawful actions of the authorities during and after the presidential campaign might lead to a serious spiral of violence. The civil society in all Eastern Partnership countries have demonstrated their societal value, expertise, and solidarity, and they play a very important role in achieving the goals of the Eastern Partnership. However, to ensure that they can continue performing their important role, the enabling environment for civil society should be improved. Since the start of COVID-19, we have seen the environment for civil society in Azerbaijan, in Belarus, considerably deteriorating. And there are also worrying signals in Moldova and in Ukraine. So in post-2020 AEP, we would like to see that the worsening environment for civil society would probably trigger rechanneling EU support away from the central governments to other actors as well. Another point that I would like to bring to your attention is the accountability. The accountability of Eastern Partnership governments for its actions in the next cycle of Eastern Partnership policy, we also believe should be made stronger, because public oversight needs to become integral part of all types of funding and ensure that the benefits of funding are going to the broader society. And of course, public oversight is becoming even more important now when increased amounts of funding are channeled to the Eastern Partnership governments, as Vasilis already mentioned, for mitigating the effects of COVID. EaP governments themselves should be better in communicating about the EU support, but EU can also communicate about the providing funding in more details, maybe without bureaucratic EU speak in a language that is more understandable by ordinary people. This will help to increase the EU visibility and further grow positive perception of the EU in the Eastern Partnership. And of course, we as the civil society are always ready to channel those messages to the broader population and serve this multiplier effect and ensure the oversight of the funding provided. Now maybe a little bit about economy and environment. Of course, COVID crisis is pushing many countries into the recession, and Eastern Partnership governments probably should be assisted in drafting comprehensive long-term recovery strategies, recovery plans that are tailored to each country's specific situations. Currently, we don't see that many countries are focusing on this because, of course, they are dealing with the daily problems and issues and situations. And supporting fair business environment, increasing competition, and investing in sectors with potential to be competitive on the EU market remains priority for the next cycle of the Eastern Partnership. And civil society want to see the economic recovery to be linked to green growth and sustainable consumption of resources. And this agenda should not be pushed into the background, of course. At the same time, we see that green transformation is at the very early stage in the region. It is driven by some segments of societies and environmental CSOs and, of course, EU reform agenda. But environmental awareness should precede major reform steps. Post-COVID recovery, of course, is a window of opportunity to design a reform set to improve the quality of life of people, for example, in the area of waste management and many others. And the green recovery should ensure that Eastern Partnership are in sync with the EU about the non-carbon future. It will be a challenge to transform the Eastern Partnership economies and businesses in time before the EU introduces carbon pricing or other measures that are stemming from a European Green Deal. I believe it will be a huge challenge for us and it will require a huge amount of resources. And I will finish by saying that it is timely to offer new opportunities for deeper integration with the EU for those Eastern Partnership states that are interested and ready. The reformers in those countries need more arguments to push through difficult reforms in their countries. However, of course, the offer should be carefully calibrated and include a number of different incentives that will become available only upon achieving specific targets. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to take questions, if any.
Thank you, Natalia. From our perspective as a member of the civil society, Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum, as just a simple member of the platform, I should say we are very glad that the Secretariat is using any occasion to advocate for the platform's view. And it looks like a good summary of all the consultations we've done before, even last year. And I was noticing that Mr. Maragos was making notes. I think he might have some replies for you, but after Boris will have his presentation as well. Just a small reminder, as usually, we'll already start receiving questions. So if you have questions, do not hesitate to use our Q&A option, but your questions will be addressed after we hear all the speakers. So Mr. Navasardian, we've heard the perspective of the Commission, we heard the perspective of a civil society platform of the Eastern Partnership. We also want to hear the views of our local, of a national civil society organization from an Eastern Partnership country. And I think you are the best place to speak now, because from what I saw, I think Armenia is the hardest hit now by the COVID crisis. And I think if we speak about the resilience, Armenian organizations are really now learning by doing this resilience. So Boris, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Alexandru. And I would like to join all those congratulations for the Jubilee of ALDA. And I wish you to have another 20 years of growing as an organization. And if it is not enough to reach the sizes you want, then another 20 years. And I also try to define my status in this panel, because as the head of civil society organization, I would not like to repeat the things that Natalia was saying and which I agree fully with. So I cannot, of course, speak as a journalist because it is not relevant for this panel. So I decided to choose a status of friend of ALDA and independent observer. So the content of what I will be saying is probably explained by this status I chose for myself. First of all, especially that Mr. Maragos told a lot about the achievements, I would like to speak more about future and our expectations about the future of the Eastern Partnership. And here, of course, number one issue is probably not losing the energy, not losing the momentum that was achieved and gained during the 10 years. And here it is very much important that the events that are planned within the Eastern Partnership are not postponed so extensively as it was during the last month. I mean, all those events that were providing new, let's say, incentives for all the players. I mean, the Eastern Partnership Summit. I mean, the Civil Society Forum. I mean, high-level dialogue with the civil society. All those formats are very important, and we perfectly understand the challenges related with the pandemic. But since one of the main areas that is defined for the next stage of the Eastern Partnership is connectivity, probably we can think about new formats which will allow to keep the energy of the Eastern Partnership and to keep all players involved, irrespective of all those possible new problems related with the pandemic, especially that the countries are in a different, let's say, situation, and Armenia is one of those who is suffering most from the pandemic. So to be still in the game, we really need to see opportunities to be active player here, irrespective of all these problems. The second suggestions that I would try to formulate is matching as much as possible the 4 agreements that the EU has with the partner countries with the agendas of the national governments. It is not yet so, and sometimes we see that when designing their agendas, the national governments are not relying so much on the agreements, and sometimes the priorities in the agreements and in the roadmaps designed after these agreements do not fully match the priorities that are in the governmental agendas. And this, of course, decreases the importance of the Eastern Partnership for each specific countries, especially that all those agreements that I meant, the association agreement and also SEPA for Armenia, are really comprehensive documents. And they address almost all areas that the governmental agendas should include. So coordination between the documents should be probably stronger, and I hope this will be paid attention both by the EU and the national government. Another important issue that I see here for the future is keeping the real agents of the Eastern Partnership. And these agents are, of course, the progressive parts of the societies of the partner countries. And keeping them still as agents, as the most interested players in their countries vis-à-vis the Eastern Partnership priorities is very important. And of course, when we are speaking about these agents and progressive parts of the societies, we have to take into account that 6 countries are quite different. So meeting the expectations of these agents is also a differentiated task. And in this sense, I would like to specify what specifically probably the best agents are expecting from the. I will speak separately of each country, probably uniting only Georgia and Ukraine. These are the countries that in the national agenda of which and the agenda of the progressive societies of it is security and membership perspective. I do not want to suggest that this membership perspective is announced formally, but at least the format and the content of the cooperation should somehow take into account these expectations. In the case of Moldova, at least in the current stage, I would say that the main concern of people there who are progressive part of the society is strengthening the position of those political forces that are pro-democratic. And so the agenda of bilateral relations between Eastern Partnership and Moldova should take this into account. In case of Azerbaijan and Belarus, I think this kind of priority is paying more attention on human rights and fundamental democratic principles. because without this further development of these countries in line with the values of the Eastern Partnership would hardly be possible. And finally, Armenia. I would say that in the case of Armenia, the main area of cooperation should be promoting and supporting positive reforms. Why I am using the word of positive? Because Armenia in the last 2 years is in the process of reforms. But these reforms are mostly focused on getting rid of, let's say, negative leverage of the past, but not looking to the future and not looking to real institutional reforms in different areas. So bringing this content addressed to the future in the reform agenda, it is also a very important role that Eastern Partnership and the EU as a partner could play in case of Armenia. And since we are attending and talking in the event of ALDA, I would like to mention one of these spheres. It is a reform of the territorial governance and local self-governance in Armenia. Unfortunately, we don't see in this area those steps that we expected. And the draft law that is being now circulated in the country is resolving rather political problems of strengthening the position of the current government and the ruling political, rather than developing local democracy in the country and ensuring engagement of every citizen in the life of their community. So I think similar challenges we have in some other areas, and I hope that within the next years of the Eastern Partnership, this specific of Armenia and specifics of every other country would be taken into account, would be adequately addressed. In the same time, I think that talking about differentiation between different countries, between different groups of countries, we also shall pay sufficient importance to the multilateral track. And at least in those formats of cooperation within the Eastern Partnership that managed to ensure this multilateral track, this should be appreciated and supported. And I'm speaking, of course, about the Civil Society Forum as still a format where multilateral track engaging all 6 countries is being ensured more or less. And of course, the area of local democracies is another one where multilateral track is working. So as I mentioned, we have to appreciate this achievement of the last 10 years and capitalize them as much as possible. I wanted to address one more issues, but probably I used my limits, so probably during responding the questions, I could speak about one more issue. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Boris, for this very insightful overview and including and mentioning all the countries' realities and expectations. And also thank all the panelists to be very responsible in keeping the right time track, as I asked, up to 10 minutes. Now I think we'll switch to question and answer session. Before we do that, I already received some written questions, which I will read on one hand. On the other hand, I will kindly ask the speaker, the panelist, when you'll answer, if you can keep it under 2-3 minutes would be great, because we still have about 20 minutes of our panel and I would like to take as much questions as possible. But firstly, I just want to open the floor firstly for the panelists. So if any of you feel like you want to come with a replica or you want to come with a contribution to what somebody else says, please do so. Or maybe you have a question to other panelists, please open your microphone and do it now. If not, probably we'll switch to the question from the attendees.
Yeah, I would like to thank all speakers. their views, their information are very important. But I would like also to ask, because one thing, what I think is very important that we are working with, so this is a question of subsidiarity and decentralization, and question of efficiency of public sector in those countries. I think this is a key issue. This is a problem not only in these countries. I know in my country, in Western Balkan countries, but this is very important because having power on the local level, with the power, you can deliver something to the people, and then closer, if this power is closer to the people, so it's easier to deal with real problems. No? And when I visited some of these countries, there is always a lack of power on the local level. So very weak municipalities, very weak cities. I'm not speaking only about the money, I'm speaking also about the capacity, human capacity. So this is some way the question of my question to the participant, and also I would like to stress that I really appreciate what European Commission is doing, and some of the lines are very close with some of our initiatives that we as ALDA are working on all these countries. So this is, let's say, some kind of question. How is the position, and what can be changed regarding the decentralization, subsidiarity, and the possibility to create stronger and more efficient local governments?
If Boris doesn't want to go about Armenia, I can mention about Belarus. Of course, I really regret that the local authorities have very limited powers in the country, and unfortunately, even if the support, it's important to provide support to local authorities, but the limits of their power is quite restricted. So it is important to continue to work with them, because I consider them quite many of them more reform-oriented, closer to the society, and being able to deliver than the central governments and central authorities. But however, I really regret that they have quite limited power in terms of budget and all other issues.
Probably also can add, so Boris, please,
yes,
please go.
probably this is a chance to specify what I meant talking about territorial governance and local self-governance in Armenia. In fact, the content of the reform here is formulated already by the new government as continuing consolidation of communities, and unfortunately a formula that would allow to decide what should be an effective size community was not found. And in fact, the current government is going to return to something close to the division between the municipalities that existed during Soviet times, which means that the local self-governance is getting farther from the population than it was even before this reform. And the second issue is introducing proportional elections for the municipalities, and excluding direct election of the head of municipality, which means that only political parties will be able to run for the seats in the municipality. And this, of course, is also alienating local communities from the governance, from the local self-governance. And many issues about the administration in the places will be in fact given to the central offices of the political parties, which of course is not what we expected from the reforms. And the last suggestion of the Armenian National Platform of the Civil Society Forum was at least to allow citizens to unite in citizens coalitions, in individual citizens coalitions, to participate in proportional elections. But unfortunately, it does not look like this suggestion is being considered seriously.
Yes, thank you, Boris, and thank you, Natalia. From my side, I just can add as an overview what we see as ALDA happening in Eastern Partnership countries from this perspective is the same tendency. It varies from country to country, but basically central government, central authorities are afraid to give more power to local governments because, of course, they have different political interests. When it's about voting, it's easy to control the votes and so on. So, yeah, in some countries it's more obvious, like Azerbaijan or Belarus. In some countries it's less obvious, but these are the tendencies. There is always a fight, if we can say so, or negotiations between local and central authorities, who gets more power, who gets more decision-making responsibilities at the local level, who has more budget, and to distribute it to different local needs and so on. I mean, this is a tendency we noticed, and I'm not sure if we have a solution, but usually it's up to the, as any negotiation, it's up to the how professional, what are the capacities of those involved. Okay, and we have, thank you very much, Oriano, by the way, for opening the floor, for breaking the ice with the first question. Next question, we received it in our chat. So we have a question. Looks like there is not just people from the Eastern Partnership. Looks like we also have people listening to us from Russia. So the question is coming from Olga from Russia. She's making an overview of the situation, and we all are aware of the situation with how the civil society is working with the law on foreign agents. Things seems to get worse with the new constitution supported within a national referendum on the July 1st, and there is a general feeling that that after the amendments to the constitution, the local self-governance will be even more restricted with integration to the system of public power. And it's highly possible that that Russians will get a new law on local self-governance. The question is if there are any advice, what instruments can be used. Is there any plans for maybe from the organizations that our panel is coming from to do some work in Russia, especially in the field of local self-governance and field of local democracy, working with the citizens at the local level and so on?
If I may, Alexandru, contribute at this stage. Yes, okay, thank you. Interesting question indeed, because the Eastern Partnership has always been somewhere between Europe and Russia and Central Asia. So, of course, the policy of the neighborhood is also the policy of the neighborhood of the neighborhood. So, we well remember when we, together with other stakeholders, including Boris, we were working for the construction of the Civil Society Forum for Eastern Partnership as an element of the Eastern Partnership. There was this issue against for in between, what do we do with the rest of the world, which is on the east side of the Eastern Partnership. I think that two things to say on my side. First of all, referring to the momentum that Mr. Maragos mentioned, I think that the good thing of the Eastern Partnership at this stage, it's that it found its momentum per se. So it has a plan on its own as a region, not referring to the fact that it is pro and cons Russia, for instance. So it has its own plans. It's not always so clear and visible because, of course, the elections in Belarus now, they are affected by this reflection with or against Russia and etc. And of course, Armenia as well. But I think that globally speaking, the Eastern Partnership has its own plans, not responding to Russia in a way or in another. And that actually gives us more freedom to deal with Russia. So because we are not positioning ourselves as a group acting in Eastern Partnership pro or cons Russia or its satellite countries, that gives us freedom to support civil society and community work in Russia, because we are less, I mean, this is what we feel in ALDA, less stressed by this challenge, because we have our own process in Eastern Partnership countries. And among our constituency in ALDA, we have LDAs and we have members in the Eastern Partnership countries. They are aware that we have several contacts in Russia and several projects ongoing to support local governance in Russia. So working with civil society networking and empowerment, and also trying to liaise with some, microcosm on local governance. And while some years ago they felt a bit stressed by this, our consistency in EaP, now they feel that we should do that. So our constituency, LDAs and members are actually supporting ALDA to do some work in Russia. And they are not saying, oh, this is a lost case, let's forget about that. So we do work there. I think that this is an immense, difficult work, but we try to create, and this is our answer to the lady, to Olga, is that we try to maintain relationship. We tend, as Mr. Maragos said, to maintain our bridges, our most. So we continue to network with civil society and local governance empowerment in Russia. For your information, and this is not impossible, I know that all of us here online have our friends and partners there. Just a line to say that ALDA over the fence is also working in Central Asia. We started a super nice project on media in Kyrgyzstan, really much anchored on a question that I would need to pose also to Boris, on this media and post-COVID, because actually this sanitary question and crisis triggered other questions. So we saw how much media and information has been critical in this time, actually also false information, fake information. So we are working in Kyrgyzstan now and very much willing to work on our topics. And there is a great demand to support civil society and local communities in Central Asia. So I think we should continue to, because the Eastern Partnership country has a plan, as a group, which is not a plan against somebody else, but it's a genuine plan for itself. It is more free now to engage on constructive relationship with the neighborhood. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Antonella. Thank you. And maybe to add here is, well, as an example, what ALDA is doing in Russia. Last year, we started with a forum. We did a forum, two forums, actually, one in Moscow, one in St. Petersburg, where we brought together representatives of local councillors, like local self-government bodies, and representatives of our members from European Union, different cities, local councillors from different cities. And it tended to be a very interesting, actually, event. I saw this huge interest from both our membership from the EU, but also Russian representatives of local self-government body in interacting with each other. So it tend to be interesting. Good. We have several questions. I'm not sure if we'll manage to read all of them in our chat. So I'll, in case none of you saw it in the chat, I'll just read it. And it goes to Antonella and to Oriano. Comes from our local democracy agency of Mariupol. What priorities of ALDA will be developed mostly in 2021? What do you expect to be integrated by LDAs and municipalities in their strategic plans? So this is the one goes to ALDA, and then there's second one. So I'll take a couple of questions and then I'll offer the floor to speakers. This is for Natalia. The question: how a local democracy agency Mariupol, which is one of the civil society organizations from Ukraine, locally registered, can join the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum? Well, I think this is something easy to answer. Good. So we have these two questions. Please, Antonella or Oriano, who'll take the floor regarding the plans for 2021? And please keep your answer under 3 minutes. Thanks.
I will answer this question, if I may, Alexandru, for the last slide, concluding the webinar, because I have a slide with our priorities. So I will answer with the slide at the end regarding the.
Okay, good.
I'll then go to Natalia for the other question.
Then Natalia, how an organization from Ukraine, locally registered, can become a member of the Partnership Civil Society Forum?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I partially responded also in the chat, but I will repeat. You can apply and become a member to the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum once in 2 years. So the next call for application will be happening in the second part of 2021. So you're welcome to apply and become a member, and you also can become a member of the Ukrainian national platform of the forum. So this is an entity which is based in Ukraine, and they also accept membership applications. So they also have the procedure, but it's quite easy to become their member. I can give you contacts also in private chats to who you can direct your request for membership at the Ukrainian national platform if you're interested.
Yes, thank you very much. And by the way, maybe also for our colleagues from Mariupol, I can say that we already, several of our local democracy agencies are part of the national platforms. Like we have it in Georgia, in Armenia, in Moldova. They're already part of this network. Okay, considering that Antonella still has one slide to show, I think we can allow to have one more questions. Just for a note, Mr. Krupnik, Andrei, we received your suggestions for us as ALDA, and I'll make sure that both Oriano and Antonella who are here will receive it in written, so we'll consider it in our future work.
Can you please translate, Alexandru, because it's in
Russian? It's more for suggestions for ALDA. Yeah, it's long, but it's more suggestion for ALDA what to consider in our future work. So it's not actually a question as such. It's more like what we can do in our future work. That's why I said I'll make sure you'll receive these messages translated. It's about 4 questions. Good. We have 3 minutes to go. So Antonella, probably the right time to open your last slide.
Yes, I see Oriano who made like this. Oriano.
Sorry, Oriano.
But just briefly, and then Antonella will say something more. In our strategy, we have a local democracy agency is on the first place. So enlarge our activities, strengthen our activities, support local democracy agency. This is a key issue from the beginning, and this will remain in 2021 and in further years. Because without this, ALDA will not be what it is. Of course, COVID is a big challenge, and regarding COVID, we have also a set of new activities, how to support local authorities, regions, cities, municipalities, to share some experiences, to share what's happened, how to solve some problems. We are a big platform, and the idea is to provide knowledge and experience in all our networks regarding these problems, and to try, of course, to overcome this problem and find out how to work in the future if this problem with COVID or some other problems started or remain. So other things what is very important that support civil participation, local democracy is also remain as our one of our key issues. Our organization is very important, how to keep our organization efficient, but also what we started a few years ago, and we would like to have even more activities, because we think that synergy between local democracy, supporting local democracy and local development is very important. So we will also try to find out and to deliver new projects, new idea through the local development projects. So LDAs, local democracy, local development, and our organization, plus the problem of COVID, how to overcome this is this part of our future that will remain also in the next months, in the next years.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oriano. I think that I will just present to all of you the last slide to conclude. So once again, thank you to our panelists to have contributed to our reflection, and we will really value your contribution. It's so important to us to know that you are close to us and to our members and to feed our reflection. I think it goes without saying that we are going through radical thoughts. Things are not going to be business as usual everywhere. I mean, that's evident to everyone, and we hope that it will change for the best. I think that we probably were called to major changes when it came to environmental issues, when it came to inequalities, when it came to movement of populations and migration. I mean, our societies everywhere were under immense stress. So the COVID-19 has actually probably speeded up the processes that were requested and immensely important for all of us. So we are challenged both in the EU and in the Eastern Partnership countries. All the friends and partners that we have in the EaP know that ALDA will be there. And we want to make sure that we are not stepping back, that we want to do more. So our keywords for the future, and I think that it's connected with what our speakers mentioned, are those ones for the future. And they will be embedded in our strategic views that hopefully will be adopted in our General Assembly 2020. So a few words to share with you and food for thought for the future, and very much looking forward to working with you at the European DG NEAR, Commission DG NEAR, together with the Civil Society Forum for Eastern Partnership and all our partners in the EaP. We know that we will need to be connectors. We know that we will need, as ALDA, to be the go-between communities, local authorities, the EU programs, the EU policies, and what's going on down there in Mariupol, in Dnipro, in Gyumri, in Minsk, in Vitebsk, you know, and those partners where we are working, we want to be, and we will be the connector. I think we felt isolated, and we need to reconnect on that. I think that the keywords will be also inclusiveness of communities, because if there is something which is clear in this crisis, is that the immense gap between those who were solid enough, you know, well off enough, and the weak part of the communities has been even more deepened. There is a big part of our communities that cannot, you know, survive over the day, and they have problems to make ends meet, both in the EU and even more in those countries that were fragile before. So we need to include, to be even more focusing on gap, you know, overcoming these diversities and be inclusive, to make sure that the division between I am well off and he is extremely in difficulty will be even deeper. So we work on the resilience of communities, and we saw, and you know, and Mr. Maragos, Vasilis, and all of us mentioned that we see a role in the local communities, and as being resilient and being able to respond to crisis, both when it comes to delivering services. I mean, they need to deliver services, they need to give out masks, they need to provide the school in a certain way. I mean, they are there, and they need to be part of the reconstruction and the relaunch, because if we are at the end of a sort of pandemic crisis, or not even that, we are certainly at the beginning of the phase, what's going on next. So we need to work with strong resilience of community. As Oriano said, we cannot go around and play around the fact that we will need to give jobs. We will need to give a plan B, because I think that we will need to really use local communities to develop plans for their communities, finding new energies, finding new connections. And the plan cannot be, let's all move to Germany. That cannot be the plan. So we need to really work on local economic development. I'm talking about EaP, but mostly the rest of all of us, we cannot all go to work in Frankfurt. We need to have another plan. We need to reconnect Europe, Vasilis. We need to be a reconnector. It's even within the EU, but also to play, you know, an important role in the friendship between EaP countries and Europe. We have been talking about solidarity. I think here we have a great role, and there is a great possibility because, why? Because Europe, and I'm concluding, I know that we are at the end of our time and that Vasilis also has to travel today. I think that now for EU member states, we really experience fragility this time. We are also fragile. We have, you know, suffered death. We have suffered on our skin what it means to be in a very fragile situation. And there is an opportunity there to build a new kind of solidarity. I see that there is something to do there. Maybe those who have been living through very difficult times, namely also our Eastern Partnership countries, friends, they can teach to us what is resilience, basically. So if they have not been resilient throughout, you know, the fall of the Soviet Union, they can show us to what is resilience through a lot of experience. Of course, at the center of it is environmental and climate change. We have experienced how nature is bumping back to us. And there is a great chance now, and we have to seize this opportunity to respond clearly to these very big demands. So I think that those are some of the keywords, Alexandru, we would like to work on in the future 2021, and as somebody said, and Boris Navasardian said, maybe 20 more years of development.
Thank you very much, Antonella. I think we're already 8 minutes behind, so I'll not make a huge closing remarks. Just want to say thank you to all our local democracy agencies who made a huge work to announce the event and to bring everybody together. Thank you very much to our speakers who found time and joined our, let's say, this celebration, this online celebration of ALDA. I know that, for instance, our local democracy agency of Dnipropetrovsk made sure that all our partners, Dnipropetrovsk Regional Administration, Dnipropetrovsk City Administration joined. Their partners from Lower Silesia joined. We're sorry we didn't have enough time to offer the floor to all of you, but probably we'll have some times. And I think for me, what I will take is also there is a lot of people eager to speak to, so probably these kind of online events have a future. We need to organize more of this and more this kind of online debates. So thank you everybody once again. Thank you those who attended and listened to us. Thank you to the speakers. And one other important announcement: during this week we'll have several similar panels on Mediterranean area, on Balkans, and so on. Please check our website and you can join them as well. Yeah, have a nice bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you all.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Alexandru, for the efficient moderation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vasilis. Bye bye, everybody.